Second. Okay. Let me just be sure. Is that on?
God, fucking everybody's streaming tonight. Good gravy.
Who else is streaming?
Everybody that I watch. Sheriff Eli, Milton, Pay Money Wubby, Shroud.
Damn.
Fucking
Everybody.
Heat.
Everybody.
Yeah. But here, I'll look. Yeah, I'll look through. Hold on. It's really funny. Okay, so Jesus Christ. So yeah, Shroud, Pay Money Wubby, Sheriff Eli, Ammunition, Milton, Venelis, Elspeth. A lot of people I follow that I don't really watch, but you know how that works. Half Empty, and then us.
Gotcha. Wednesday seems to be the day to do a lot of things. Why can I not hear him? Hang on, I'm double check real quick. Greg, do me a favor. Check see if the music's hearable.
Test 1 2 1 2. It is not audible.
No, the music. Some sounds.
I know. There's no audible, or there's no audio.
Oh, okay. All right. Good to know. Cause I'm like sitting here. I'm like trying to listen to the music. It's like there is no. Hang on.
I turned up my TV all the way. Then I did a test, and all I could hear was myself. So.
Okay. All right. I'll just re-add the songs. Come on, babe. Where are you? There you go. Is it not? Hang on. I gotta figure something out. No, that's not it. No? I have... Oh! For some odd reason. I have no idea what's going on.
I don't know either.
I don't know why it's not working. Okay, I'll figure this out. Yeah, because I need music. Don't understand why it's not wanting to. That's super weird. That is super weird. I do not know why that's being an issue. Okay, backup plan. Just do it manually. Where is it? My songs. Tsunami. Where are you? Okay. Open with VLC player. There we go. Just gotta turn it down. There we go. Yeah, I do not know why that's the case. Huh. Oh, now it's not playing? What the fuck is going on? Okay, I'm just gonna do that. Close. There we go. Okay. Oh, I know why. I think. Let me try something. Hang on a second. I think I know why that was the reason. Let me just check here. No? No? I have no idea. Okay, never mind. Take that back. I thought I fixed it. I'll just put it on desktop. So, what I was experimenting there with is I was setting up the audio for the podcast tonight just to make it a little more cleaner. But I guess I have to adjust it to where, like, because I want the music, to be low so we can talk and they can kind of hear it. With everything on, the filters on, the suppression, the noise gate, it actually muted the music. So I gotta go back to the drawing board and figure that out. So, but yeah, I hope that's not the case for the main. Let's see. That is on. The main one is on. Yeah. Okay. We'll see. We'll test it out. Like when we start talking, I will go ahead and make sure to have you or somebody just kind of go in and tell us like, hey, is the music playing? So.
You know what's really funny is one thing I've learned with Anthem recently.
Mm-hmm.
People don't do any research on anything. They really don't. They listen to YouTube. They listen to other people. I was talking to the neighbors out front earlier today, and I was talking about Anthem. And I was talking about what it does right, what it does wrong, and what it's trying to fix. And how I think if you look at Anthem Vanilla and Destiny Vanilla, or even, any other looter game vanilla, you can see that Anthem is basically starting off where all those others started off. I somehow got chocolate.
Yeah? Go on.
Sorry, I had chocolate on my face.
Oh, okay.
And one of the guys goes, why is the camera always like up in my face?
Because you're up close to it. Actually,
I'm really not. I'm like a solid 2 feet away from it.
Really? All right, I'll adjust it then. Hang on. I'm doing something right now, but go on.
Hold on, I'm trying to see if I can.
That is a hard plug to put in.
What are you trying to do?
I'm turning on my on-air sign. So now that my brother or anybody else who walks in can notice that I'm live. So they can be quiet while I podcast. But let me fix you. Hang on. Where's?
No, I mean I'm still like, I just want to lean on my desk and like my camera is just like way too close.
Let me see. On my end,
there's nothing you can do because I'm looking at my camera right now.
No.
And like right here, my whole head takes up the entire screen. So
yeah, like I can make you a bit smaller, which you'll see here in a second. But yeah, you I don't want to say it, but I think you got a big head.
I mean, I don't think that has anything to do with what I'm talking about, but I think for sure. Anyway, so like the whole thing, I don't know. Do you have the article, or are we going to talk about Anthem at all during this podcast?
We are. Because of the recent report and crashes that is causing some players, and at that point, we'll just like talk about Anthem in general because it's
okay.
Yeah, it's been.
That's my point. Is they had a stream today where they talked about all the issues and stuff they want to solve. So,
okay.
I don't know if you saw that, but
I didn't.
There's just a lot of stuff involving it that people aren't doing any research on, and it drives me nuts because if you do an ounce of research, you understand what it takes to do a lot of this stuff.
There it goes.
Like when being a dev and you're trying to fix issues, things aren't just, let me press a button and fix it. No big deal. But the internet seems to think that's the case, so.
Making games is hard in general.
Uh-huh. That's my point.
Yeah. Things will happen.
People just don't care.
Yeah.
They just don't want to look at it, and that's what irritates me. But today I was talking to my neighbors, and we were discussing everything involving it, and one of the guys goes, well, I think it's kind of ridiculous that it's locked at 30 frames per second on console. And I was just like, buddy, like that doesn't matter for shit. And he was just like, what are you talking about? And I was like, the game looks fine on my console. It looks fine on PS4 Pro. It looks great on Xbox One X. Like, if you're sitting there complaining about frames per second, then you're listening to the wrong people. He's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, frames per second doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like your FPS matters for shit. Like there's other things you want to look at, like
To some degree, if it was like lower than like 20 frames per second, then it's like okay,
yeah.
then yeah, you have a complaint.
I don't think any game should go lower than 30, right, realistically, because that's what that's the frames per second that your eyes can see normally.
24 actually, but not to discredit that.
It's a small whatever.
I know,
Moving on.
I know.
But it was really funny because they were like, not according to the pros. You're just not a pro player, so you don't notice it.
No,
I'm just
fuck that, fuck that ideology.
Right, I agree, and I go, there's like, if you're listening to pro players, then you're missing the point. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, so if a baseball player comes to you and says, I need to play with these specific pair of socks because my performance will hinder, are you just going to straight believe them that their entire performance is based on these socks that they're wearing? And he's like, I might. And I'm just like, oh my God.
To be fair, sports players are very, very, very superstitious.
Well, that's the point. That's the point I'm making to him. If a pro video game player, an esports player, says, if the frames per second aren't here at this part that I need them to be, he's just being superstitious. He or she is being superstitious. That's my point. Like, there's things that they want to see in order to feel like their performance is not getting hindered. Yeah. Like, and I furthered this point because I was like, pro fucking fighting players swore that you could not win or play correctly in a fighting game without a fucking joystick and buttons, like an arcade setup, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, and I said, and then a guy walks into fucking Evo a few years ago and beats everybody with a goddamn PS4 or PlayStation controller.
Mm-hmm.
Get off your fucking high horse about that shit, because it's not true.
Yeah, like if you really wanted, like if that guy really wanted to be, I guess, not liking frames per second, then boy, let me introduce you to Dark Souls and how good that game series is, and it's locked at 30 frames, and it's gorgeous, and it's a hell of a game.
Yeah, it's the mentality that they follow with YouTube, and I'm just like, you guys are listening to the wrong people.
Listen to listen to other people. There are tons of other people that have different mindsets.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
That's what will irritate me, is just like, there's this new mindset with, if it's on YouTube, then it's the truth, and I'm just like, that is so fucking incorrect. It's scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because everybody has an ability to create content like us and put it out onto the internet, into the world, and for whatever it takes, somebody will agree or disagree. So, and they take that as a grain of salt or not. So,
well, you know me better than most people, Anthony. You know how skeptical I am on information. Like, I don't just, oh yeah, that's the way it is. Like, I will research shit. And like, when we talk about Anthem in the podcast, I'll be bringing up some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many things that people just don't want to research. And this is including people who are in our position who get paid to do this.
Exactly.
Like, they go, well, all right, so it's specifically bricking PS4s. Well, no, it's not just Anthem. First off, secondly, that was a unfortunate happenstance. So maybe look into it a little bit more before you just start fucking pulling that trigger. But yeah, we'll talk about that more.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just infuriating, and
yeah, I'll get into more about it.
I want to say more on the idea of like this culture that we live in, where you get people who are you get the millennials. Actually, you get Gen Z people going, well, I saw a video on YouTube, and you get the fucking older people going, I saw an article on Facebook, and no one's doing the goddamn research. They're just trusting a thing that they saw on the internet at some place.
So we'll talk about it. I don't really want to challenge you, but I feel like recently I kind of feel I want to challenge you on some things. No, like, so when you state some things, on this podcast, whatever that be, that's your opinion or whatnot. No, never mind. The more I think about it, I'm gonna end up making myself look bad. It also it make me sound like a dick actually thinking about it too. So
if there's something that you want to say about something that I've said or my opinion on something, then just say it, because I don't mind defending my stance. Like, I've never minded defending my stance.
Right. My initial thought is just like, when we do these podcasts, when you give your point, when I read the article, when I give my point, I'm citing something from a news story, from an article. If there is a way where you cite something, or when you say something that is truth, like if there's a way where you can like post a link up where, or tell us like where exactly you got it from, news source wise. Like this person said this and this, because this is the truth and this is what they posted. This is from the developer themselves on yada yada yada, or this is what said on.
So you want me to just cite my sources a little bit better?
Yes.
Is what you're getting at?
Yes.
All right, I'll be more mindful of that for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about it. I was just like, if I state, like, if we're talking about the Anthem thing, and I go, yeah, the devs had a live stream where they talked about a bunch of shit that they want to change and some stuff about the state of the game.
Mm-hmm.
My thought process on that is just go to Twitch. But if you want me to have a link to that, like, that VOD, I can do that.
Yeah, like, it doesn't even need to be a link. Just like kind of cite where it's from, like. The stuff there's definitely some things like we can talk about that, like we off the bat, we both read into the news, we both read from various sources, and there'll be times where like I'll remember reading something from IGN, but I forget at the time, and that's something that I wish I want to do more.
Well, it's also a lot of the stuff that I do, Anthony, like a lot of stuff that I talk about, it is a little harder for me to remember to cite it.
Yeah.
Because if I'm on Twitter and I follow a lot of devs on Twitter, and some dev says like David Jaffe comes out and he's just like, you people who are completely crapping on Anthem for certain things, or you're crapping on Fallout 76 for certain things, you don't understand what it's like to be in game development. You don't understand what it's like to work in that field. And he has a whole podcast about it. It's a little difficult to cite those exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I usually bring up like David Jaffe has said this, or Glyph Blazinski, or
right,
or Corey Bullrog, or something to that effect, because I know that people recognize those names.
Absolutely, yeah.
I try really hard to not do the "a dev said," because people aren't going to remember that. But I've already followed 15 devs from Anthem, because they're all putting out, like, they're all working on different things in Anthem, and they're all putting out little updates on what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that with other games, for example, and whatnot, and like I know kind of what you're talking about with, like, when we were talking about where the money goes in the public, like the percentage for the studios and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I absolutely should have kept that. I should have copy and pasted that and sent it to you, or just saved it somewhere, but I didn't. I just full on forgot.
Yeah.
So
and part of me is kind of asking this because, like, there are times where, or at least recently, like especially last week, like it got me thinking, like, is that really true? I went to go and do research on it, and in a way, like, I kind of also want to challenge you more. Like, not to say like our format's not good at all. Like, we both have our points and we both kind of agree to disagree, but I kind of feel like I want to challenge you more on just like being on the other side, like. Here's his perspective, and here's why, and here are the facts of what this is versus your facts and your point of view. And I kind of feel like I kind of been more green with you, more than kind of conflicting with you, which I'm trying to do my part, and I'm trying to be more research heavy before I go in for next week's. This week I kind of did the same as always. Well,
the other issue that we do have here is I don't I don't know what the articles of the news articles that you're gonna choose for the podcast for the week.
True.
So when I saw that, when I saw that article, I didn't think to save it because I didn't think I was gonna need to bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
But we brought it up, so
yeah. And most of these articles I do bring, like I do it kind of on a day of, just because the way the show is formatted is like it is a week, the past week of gaming news. So leading up into the podcast day, like news stories that didn't think would happen, say on the day of, and say I did it like on the day before, that I have to include in, and then I have to do add that into the show. So like it's kind of a challenge in that aspect. But yeah, I can definitely get it. But to be fair, I feel like we're both pretty informed about what you say anyways. Like you have your news sources, you listen to and read up on articles and whatnot.
My big thing, Anthony, when it comes to journalism, you want to get you want to get sources for sure. But we do a podcast. We're not journalists. Like that's the big thing. So for example, when I'm talking about when I talk about where the money goes for game sales, this isn't just some rando dev talking about it. It's like they talk to analysts, they talk to people who are in the stock market and all that kind of shit. They talk to financial experts when it comes to how that money is distributed. That's where I'm getting my information from an unbiased third-party source who could give two shits about the gaming industry. They just know what's going on with the money. If it's a different example that I can give besides the money one, because that's the most recent one that I can think of. Mm-hmm. I would bring it up, but I just don't know. It like I said, it might have a lot to do with the fact that I just don't know. Oh my god, this fucking website! I just don't know. It's hard for me to understand.
And much of this is kind of off the cuff, like the way the show is formatted, like the way that we respond to I say article, you respond with initial thoughts about the article and whatnot. And
but my point is if we were doing a situation, Anthony, where you contacted me a week before we did the podcast with all the articles that we're going to talk about, mm-hmm. and I maybe not a week, but 2 nights before, mm-hmm. and I went to do research on each thing and have a fully thought out process. Mm-hmm. I would absolutely have cite I would cite articles. I would have links to those articles. I'd have a lot more information. But the problem is that when I'm door dashing and I'm just looking on Twitter or something, or I'm looking on some other website, or I'm just dicking around on my phone because we're going from point A to point B and I happen to see something. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that information is going to be used later.
Right. Yeah.
It just kind of comes up. So I don't mind you challenging me, but if I straight up tell you I would have to go and find it again because I don't remember exactly where it was, and I'm not saving every article that I read on video games.
Right. It kind of comes and goes. My information kind of comes from both articles online, but also a combination of various gaming outlets, podcasts to listen to. Recently, I've listened. Can I talk today? Recently, I've been listening to a lot more Kind of Funny on the Game Daily podcast, kind of hearing their thoughts on various news stories. But I get my information kind of in both ends. And I still am informed in that way in terms of where I'm getting my news information. But that's something I've been thinking about recently. It's I really want to be.
Well, I don't mind Kind of Funny, but I always find that Kind of Funny does a very little bit of research, and they just bring up an article, and they kind of just discuss it. Yeah. Very similar to we do.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I happen to read what other people are thinking and saying on different things.
Absolutely.
So much so that I form this idea of what needs to happen. And if someone brings new information to me that I can actually like falsify or confirm, then great. But like, I just find that a lot of gaming podcasts don't do this. I love Funhouse, I really do, but they do it all the time and it drives me nuts. Like, they are just journalists when it comes to inside gaming. They don't do a shit ton of research, and they're also trying to make the video a little bit more entertaining.
I've been noticing that too, actually. I've recently just been watching them more too, actually, which is funny enough. Yeah, which is entertaining. But yeah. I think my point being, or what I'm trying to get out for myself, is just I want to.
Oh, here we go. Here's the article. Jesus, it's old. Well, not that old. It's 2010, but it's still old.
Well, that's 9 years ago. I would clarify that as pretty old to my standards, at least.
Well, I don't think this has changed much. Maybe in terms of digital, it's changed. But it says the anatomy of a $60 game. $15 would go to the retailer margin, so $15 goes to the people who sell it. $7 in returns, $4 to distribution, $7 to platform royalty, so $7 to Xbox or $7 to PlayStation or $7 to Steam. And then $27 goes to the developer. Again, that is a little older.
Yeah, I mean, you would figure if inflation that numbers might change.
Well, I mean, you'd think that, but we still pay $60 for video games.
Yes, we do. The only thing that gives me pause about that is because there's so many avenues now to get games that like it ranges in prices. Like Game Pass is like what, $10 a month, and I get free games through that service. Humble Bundle has like a
okay. Well, first and foremost, pause that train, because you're not really getting free games. Okay, you're getting games that Microsoft owns, and the second that you lose Game Pass, you have no more access to those games. So what you're really doing is you're just paying for a Netflix service via Microsoft. That's it.
Maybe the words of not owning, I should have said, but just like having access to play games. And there are other things out there that digital games, and I'm talking about just like anybody indie-wise or other game companies would price range, 20, 30, 15, what have you, free sometimes as well. But typically, yes, $60 is the standard price for a video game. Fresh box out of the gate. So
there's a lot of reasons behind that, and I've said for years that, I mean, I'm talking about like back in the Xbox 360 days, Anthony, like that every game should be able to charge what they feel is necessary for that game. The $60 standard is ridiculous and needs to end. I know that publishers, developers, all those people would be like, well, it'd be terrifying to try to sell a game above $60 nowadays because it's just the standard that's been set. There's a ton of people, probably more people than probably more people than do any research on this subject would lose their absolute fucking mind if there was the standard set price for a new game, AAA title, was $100. It would sell terribly because there's so many people that are just like, I'm not spending money on that. That's fucking too expensive and blah, 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 blah. But this also goes into the idea of, if a developer can make a game that they know they can sell well, but doesn't deserve the $60 price tag, they could sell it for cheaper. I know that there's a bunch of devs that have talked about from... what's that fucking game that came out? Kirby's Epic Yarn.
Oh, gotcha.
They stated that game did not need to be $60. It could have easily been $30.
Absolutely, yeah.
And unfortunately, that was just the standard that's been set. So They sold it for 60. But then there's examples of other things happening that fucking kill me, like Capcom right now gouge pricing their Resident Evil backlog games. Did you hear about that?
I saw the article. I didn't really read much other than saw the title, but didn't really read into it. So inform
So,
me what's going on.
so for PlayStation 2, or for PlayStation 4, you can buy a disc. I think it may be for PlayStation 3, but you can buy Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil 1 remake that was on the GameCube originally for $20, 2 games, right? For the re-release digitally, they both cost $30 individually.
Okay.
There are digital versions of all 3 games. And this is including Resident Evil 4, just to throw that in there, where each game costs $10 to $20 depending on the platform. Yet Capcom just re-released them on consoles for $30 a piece.
Mm.
So, like, there's situations like that kill me, because it's like you're clearly overpricing those, because you know that the popularity of Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 2 remake is so fresh on people's minds, and everyone loved those games. Unlike Resident Evil 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
That you think you can get away with it, and it's just like that's a Capcom issue. Do you think the in-house fucking devs, I blame any of that on? Hell the fuck
No.
no.
That's all the suits. Like,
Yep. And that's another thing I keep trying to tell people, like, do you really believe in your heart of hearts that BioWare, of all companies, would have released an unfinished game by themselves? Fuck no.
My instant mind of thinking is, do you think that game was released? Wait, that game was released last month. So I wonder if that
It only had a 6-year development.
Okay, I'm kind
And
of
with the ambition that it had, like everything that's in the game now, and everything that's clearly not quite done, it screams unfinished.
I was gonna say, like, I wonder is part of the reason why they want to release that game in Feb was to do
it was delayed twice.
Oh, you're right. It was delayed twice. Never mind. Oh, because like my first initial thought was, I wondered if they wanted to meet that God, what do you call it?
I fully believe that EA. I need to fix my camera. There we go. I fully believe that EA had, like, EA, Activision, Bethesda, Ubisoft. They're all in the same boat of pushing a game to meet customer demands to appease the investors or stockholders. That's what they look at, because they're big publishers. Fucking Devolver Digital has made countless jokes and commented on how these big publishing companies could give 2 fucks about us, and it hurts the devs. The best thing that Bungie ever did was get the fuck away from Activision.
Yep. Man, it's gonna drive me nuts. Okay.
Why? What's going on?
No, because I was gonna make a point about, like, I wonder if they were releasing that game in February because they wanted to meet the financial quarter. I forgot what it was called, but, like, you know how there is a certain point, especially in spring, where games need to be out or want to meet that financial something.
So, okay, I know what you're talking about, and that's why there's a shit ton of releases in March and April, like the springtime. That's all income tax.
It's all okay.
They know that young people between the ages of 16, I guess technically 18, and 35 usually get a refund, because the way that they make their money isn't in certain fashions and forms. 9 times out of 10, they're still living at home, or they're renting a small apartment with a bunch of friends, so they're going to get a return. And they know that people are going to spend money on these games in that return. This is exactly why there's a shit ton of releases, like, right before November.
I don't think that was it, though. Like, there was It's gonna drive me nuts all night. there is a term that they put this, and maybe that is exactly what you're talking about, and I'm just like not not agreeing with you. Financial, hang on, financial reports, sales earning reports. Yeah, it is gonna drive me nuts.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about when right before like annual sales reports are in or due.
Yeah, and it's like it happens quarterly. Like there's one in spring.
Right.
There's one in, I want to say summer, or it might have been in the fall. Like they
With
have these things, and they
with the entertainment industry, it's slightly different, just because you don't want to release a game. You don't want to like force a game to be released just because it meets a certain time era or whatever. Like it doesn't meet. Like, oh shit, we got to release this game in summer because it's supposed to release during that quarter. No, I don't think that matters for shit. I think when companies look at that release dates, they want specific dates because they know they're going to make the most money. Look at the movie industry. When do the big blockbusters come out?
summer.
Mm-hmm. Most of them come out in the summertime. It's very rare they come out at other times of the year. And there's a very clear reason for that. Now, you would argue that, let's take Round Table Pizza when I worked there. What was the biggest day that we made the most pizzas?
Super Bowl Sunday.
All hands on deck Super Bowl Sunday. You know how the store referred to that day? It was their Black Friday. It was the one time of year where they went all the way back into the black and no longer into the other colors that determine what financial state the company's at.
Mm-hmm.
Pizza places go, we are in the black on Super Bowl Sunday. That is their yearly thing. Department stores, it's the day after Thanksgiving. For the entertainment industry, it varies depending on what entertainment you're talking about.
Right, yeah.
Like, let's go with comic books. They know that the biggest day to sell comic books, this is going to sound really weird, Comic-Con. Not when Avengers Endgame comes out, not when Captain Marvel comes out, not when Far From Home comes out. Those sell comics, don't get me wrong, but the big day that comics sell a lot is during that one weekend that what are you doing?
Turn off my TV. Hang on.
Oh.
I'm just getting rid of background noise.
But as you noticed, gaming is so weird and different in terms of that. It's so varied when it comes to gaming, because suddenly you could have an amazing indie game release like August. Mm-hmm. Like the week before school starts. Why? Why would you release a game then? Just because. Because there's no... With indie gaming, there is no publisher to sit there and say, well, that's when they have the most money in their pocket, so sell it then. There's nobody to say that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you see such weird, varied like release dates for indie games, where for AAA, it's like spring, fall, or spring into fall, period. Like you might get a couple here and there during the summer, but 9 times out of 10, boom, AAA is on those 2 times the year.
I was gonna say, like, one of the things that always perplexes me, and maybe so you can answer, but like, I do not understand why major releases aren't released in the summer, because you would figure kids are out of school in the summer, perfect time to play a lot of games, to buy games. Like, why is that the case? Why is it?
My I don't know for sure, so I'm just guessing here, Anthony, but working in the school district and having my nephews around and whatnot, parents usually like to take trips and stuff during the summertime. People aren't usually spending a whole lot of money on video gaming during the summer. It's hot in the house. 9 times out of 10, you want to get out, do something else. That would be my assumption. But again, I'm not 100% correct on that.
Gotcha.
You're not entirely wrong, but at the same time, that's just when they don't sell. Like, they just don't.
Yeah.
Like, and
I
this and
guess.
this and this is a
Weird.
trend.
Weird.
This is a trend that well, this is a trend that the big publishers have noticed over the course of being around since Atari. It's just an industry thing, and there's reasons behind it. But at the end of the day, um, video gaming as an entertainment art form is still in its infancy. It's what in the way that it is now, and I'm not going with Atari. I'm going back to the original Nintendo, because that's really when gaming skyrocketed. I would argue that gaming is in its maybe teenage years compared to other art forms.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I would agree. Yes.
So, by the time that we're 40, 50, 60 years old, we might see a different way that gaming is looked at. There might be a new way to adjust things.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to my dad about this, and when he was like 14, 15 years old, his dad would take my dad's sisters, he has 3 sisters, he's the only boy, take the whole family out to see a movie, and his dad already hated going to the theater to see a movie because he found it to be a waste of time to spend all that money to watch a 2-hour thing, or even less than that. But they started selling popcorn and hot dogs and things in the theater, and he found that to be the most egregious thing he had ever seen. And then my dad used a word that I hear with loot boxes or microtransactions, and that's predatory. So imagine this, Anthony. People in the 50s and 60s saw concessions as predatory.
Boy, that mid roll or that what do you call it? You know that the video, let's go to the lobby?
Yeah.
That must have been earth shattering when that happened in his eyes. So
but that's my point. That's my point. Is every iteration of art that you go through, you have your ups and downs, you have your problems and your great moments and all that kind of shit. And gaming's going through all that.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that gaming is going through right now is everyone has a soapbox. Everyone has a way to give their opinion about these games. And 9 times out of 10, just like with movies, just like with games, all art is this way. It stops being about the opinion and more about the art itself. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I'm sorry. It stops being about the people and it starts being about the art itself. So my biggest concern right now, Anthony, is that let's say EA shuts down BioWare because of Anthem. And, of course, Andromeda and whatever else controversy going throughout. Let's just say they do. All those people that worked at BioWare, out of a job. What does the internet do? Suddenly gets on EA's case. EA is the worst company. They just shut down BioWare. They made great games like Mass Effect and KOTOR. How dare they shut down a great company? All those people are out of jobs. Hey, internet, if you know any companies that are hiring, here you go. What are they doing right now, though? Shitting all over BioWare for Anthem. They are quite literally the ones causing this. And you know I'm right on this, Anthony. The way the internet works, that is what's going to happen.
I will say one thing. You're not wrong, because this is a pure definition of outrage culture, as we see not only in the gaming industry, but like in other places as well. One thing I will say, is that there is enough room in the internet and for the world for criticism that should have been taken much more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not serious, but like much more in a learning way, so that it doesn't come down to people yelling at game devs because the game is it's not what I expect it to be.
I have no issues. I have absolutely no issues with being critical on a developer company.
Mm-hmm.
I have no issues with that, Anthony. You know I don't. If you feel that a game is not up to snuff or it's not what you wanted, by all means, be vocal about it. Don't be a dick. Just let
Yeah.
them know.
Yes.
I don't like the loot drops in Anthem. I don't like how the world of Fallout 76 feels completely barren. Like there's no life whatsoever except for enemies to kill.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Say
Like,
that stuff.
like
Yeah.
say it, but don't be a dick to the devs. Essentially, yes.
Just they're just doing they're trying to do their job. They're doing the best that they can to give you a product that you want to play. Going onto the internet and saying like and pulling a fucking Angry Joe or Jim Sterling doesn't help anybody at all.
What was I gonna say? Shit, just lost the train of thought. But yeah, like I think like, it feels like we're kind of getting into it, but like BioWare, I think that that mindset of what people think of that company right now is not the same company that it was years ago. And I think people need to realize like this is the same BioWare team that made Mass Effect 2 or 1 or 3. Like this is a completely new team, and
It's close to the same team.
is it close same team? Okay, well I stand corrected. I thought that the team that is making this one is not the same.
I mean, they have a lot of different people. Like people have left and come back and whatnot because it's been many years. But a lot of the same people who did things on. I'll put it this way: a lot of people working on Anthem also worked on Mass Effect Trilogy and Andromeda, maybe in different ways, different departments. But the head people of Anthem are entirely different than the heads of Mass Effect. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like if someone worked on Iron Man 1, 2, and 3 as a continuity expert and then suddenly directed the new Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. The thing that gives me that thought was because you know how the game industry works when it comes to jobs and how easily people switch from one role to another, going from one department to another, or leaving one company to another. And that happens very often in the game industry. So I was under the assumption that this team currently with BioWare is not the same as the one that made Mass Effect 2, 1, and so on. I thought it was a completely different team. My mistake.
Yeah, no, I mean it's different in a specific way, but you can see the influences of Mass Effect in Anthem. Like a lot of people they completely miss this, but there are 3 individual characters that have their own story within Anthem, and then you have the main plot. So there's technically 4 stories in Anthem. Now those side stories remind me very much of like when side characters had a long quest you would have to go on. If you know what I'm talking about.
I think I do. I played the demo, so.
What demo to what?
To Anthem.
No. Okay, so the main plot is about. I can't think of his name. Shit, I can't think of the bad guy's name. Anyway, he's trying to get the Anthem of Creation because that is supposed to be the ultimate source of power in the game. And in order to do it, they need a specific javelin. When finding that javelin and going through the process of getting that javelin, one of their own betrays them, takes the javelin to the bad guy. That turns out to be a bad thing for him. They then go where the bad guy, like back to the Heart of Rage, which is where the game starts, and it's where the game ends. And you defeat the bad guy and stop him from using the Anthem of Creation. But to further that, they shut down the Anthem of Creation, stopping any kind of cataclysmic event. That's the main plot. Then there's this girl, and now here's the thing. I'll admit to you, Anthony, I have no idea what happens in these 3 individual stories because I just skip past the dialogue. I just want to do the missions. But if I were to take what other people have said about the stories, that they're very good. That it basically plays out each individual's wants and desires for certain things, but they can't do it on their own. They need your help. So that was fun. However, that doing that with those characters absolutely reminded me of when you play Mass Effect 2 or 3 and you're doing the loyalty missions. The loyalty missions aren't absolutely necessary to the game's plot, but they're fun little side things to get to know the characters better.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what's happening in Anthem.
I see.
Playing those, by the way, proved to me that Angry Joe didn't finish the game. That he played the plot, he played the main plot, and that was all he did. Because when it gets to, there's a specific character whose entire plot one of the mission involves finding a Strider that went missing. Mm-hmm. And so when you find that Strider, it's being attacked and it gets knocked over and you see it explode. When talking to my neighbor about that Angry Joe review, he was like, "Is there a mission where a Strider? There's no mission where a Strider gets knocked down. Like you see it in the E3 stuff, but you don't actually play that." And I go, "Okay, I haven't hit it yet, but I doubt that it's not in the game." Well, it is in the fucking game. So how much did Angry Joe actually play? Or did he play a little bit, got irritated because the internet was irritated, knew that if he made an angry video on it, it would get lots of views?
Yeah. I mean, like, what... His name is Angry Joe to begin with, so... It wouldn't be a video of Angry Joe without him being angry.
It's not him being angry that bothers me. It's him not doing the research that bothers me.
I see.
Like, this is the same argument I have about Jim Sterling. Like, there's very little research done, and then they just make the video.
Yeah.
And like people will come out and say, it's not just me. Other people come out and they're just like, you didn't do this part of the game, or you gave up way too early for some weird arbitrary reason. Like, it's bizarre. It's just so bizarre to me how people fucking act towards video games. Like, there's a streamer named Renee who's on Mixer, and she was tweeting out about Fallout 76. She's like, I don't get where all this hate's coming from. The game is designed to feel barren. You're one of the first people to exit a vault. Like, your area's not supposed to have other humans to begin with. But if you do run into one, you don't know what kind of person they're going to be. That's the point of it being another player. And the whole story of the game is in the lore. Like, you read stuff. Like, she had people watching her stream getting irritated that she was reading things. She's like, if you're not willing to read the things, you can't get mad about no story. Like, there's no story in the game because there's no NPCs. Or no story like in other Fallouts, I should say.
Right. And I think that expectations are what a lot of people have of a company that have done previous stuff. Say with Fallout 76, like Bethesda Fallout games have always been story driven. And that's what a lot of people like about those games and expect from those games. And when you attach a Fallout name to the next game, that's what the expectation is, until they realize that's not it.
And as you and I have discovered many times doing this podcast, Anthony, expectations is what causes this needless outrage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can count on my hands and toes a plethora of things that have happened in the past 10 years of people's expectations for a thing. And I mean, I can go all the way back to Mass Effect 3 if you want to.
Yeah.
Last Jedi, ring a bell?
I still think that movie's not as great. I still stand by that.
You don't have to like the movie like I do. I'm not telling anybody that they have to like the movie. But when you throw at me things that you just straight up didn't notice or that you didn't pick up on as a plot hole, that's a big problem for me. Because I'm like, nah, bud. Nah.
I actually do intend to watch that movie again. Like, I was thinking about it recently too. It's like, I'm gonna watch it just and see how I feel about it a second time around.
Like, a lot of people have come to me and they're just like, no, I get it. I get that, like, every character's going through their own little journey of failure and picking up the pieces and whatnot. I didn't really like the stuff with Luke. It just didn't resonate with me, or I felt that the chase scene in space between two giant ships just was kind of slow and boring. Fine. That's a legit opinion. You don't have to enjoy that stuff. That's cool. Cool by me. It's when people sit there and say like Finn's entire journey to that planet didn't make any sense. I'm like, it made plenty of fucking sense. Or it doesn't make sense that nobody told Poe anything. I was like, you weren't paying attention. Straight up.
It was funny. I was actually talking to my coworker because he's a well, I call him an inspiring actor, but like he's been in plays and whatnot, and he's kind of in tune with the entertainment world more than I am. And we were talking about Star Wars, and I was like, oh, I have to know. Let me ask you, what's your thoughts on Star Wars Episode 8, or the last one? And during the time we were busy at work, but like the one thing he told me that he didn't like was, he didn't feel like the part where they go when, God, what's her name?
Ray, Finn. Rose.
Rose
and Finn.
Yeah, when Rose and Finn went to the casino planet.
It wasn't a casino planet. It just was a casino city.
I know, but that's the first thing I thought of. Like I don't remember the name of it, but like yes, that planet. He said he didn't like the fact that they somehow put in what was it, like a message about saving the animals in this kind of huge epic huge epic story of what the bigger thing is going on. It's just kind of out of place what he felt. So
sure, I guess I understand that opinion. I've heard that opinion. I don't necessarily agree with it because to me that's always been a major part of Star Wars is the socio-political message.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go with the original trilogy, you can go with the prequels, you can go with a lot of Star Wars stuff, and there's always been a socio-political angle to all of it. So I don't know necessarily I disagree with that. Maybe I would agree with that Last Jedi kind of pushed it really, really hard.
Yeah.
At that part. But it doesn't bother me in any way, shape, or form because it plainly demonstrates that with war, there are people that just straight benefit no matter who wins.
Yeah.
And that's an important angle to the plot.
I really wished this is going back to the movie, but like I really wish when I was watching it that would lean really into that they were benefiting both sides. Like I thought they were gonna go in a way to where like this war is happening, like all the stuff that they're getting, like it's benefiting both, and it's like, oh shit.
It's not benefiting both sides. That's the point you have to take away. It's not benefiting the Last Order or the Resistance. It's benefiting the people selling the product. They don't give a fuck who wins this war. They don't care. That's the point of that message. It's there's no beneficialness to either side of the war.
But I kind of The thing about that, I kind of wish I leaned more into it because it was kind of playing the
ambiguity.
Yes, between Rey and God, what's his name?
Finn. No. Luke.
No, Darth Vader wannabe.
Kylo Ren.
Yes, like it was kind of playing that this forbidden connection between these two. Like, is it really going to be, it's going to turn out to like they join forces? Is like, is it really good? Is it really bad? Like, I kind of wanted to be in that direction, make it really.
Oh, the next movie will be about that.
Okay,
for
good.
Sure.
Because
that's another thing, Anthony. You have to keep in mind when you look at middle movies, it's about the heroes fucking up. It's about look at Empire Strikes Back, or look at Attack of the Clones, even though that movie kind of blows out. The heroes, the antagonist, or sorry, the protagonists fuck up consistently to the point where the antagonists get to create this huge hill for the protagonist to climb. And when a lot of people watch Attack of the Clones or Empire Strikes Back, they see this bad guy doing that. right? Creating the hill.
Mm-hmm.
With Last Jedi, the antagonists don't create that hill. They don't. As a matter of fact, the antagonists throughout all of Last Jedi kind of fuck up just as much as the good guys.
Yeah.
The problem, though, is that the good guys fucked up more. The whole movie is about failure.
Mm-hmm. Like straight up, like Luke just tosses the lightsaber away. Does not want to deal with anything with the war. Didn't give a shit.
Well, also, a lot of people look at Luke as this deity, as this like omnipotent being, and I'm just like, that's not the way to look at Luke in any way, shape, or form.
You mean the actor or just the character?
I didn't say Mark Hamill.
Oh, good point. I mean, to be fair, Mark Hamill was a hell of a guy. Just saying.
Well, don't get me wrong.
Just
I
saying.
completely agree. But
fucking, he is my
no,
Joker.
a lot of people forget that Luke, throughout the entire trilogy, he, for the most part, was whiny, and then when he didn't get his way, he made his way, which usually was a mistake. It wasn't until Jedi that he learned from his mistakes, but still couldn't understand the Force, because as Yoda had said in the prequels, and I mean technically he also said it in Empire Strikes Back to Ghost Obi-Wan, that when you train somebody who's too old in the Force, they have a harder time becoming connected to the Force. And so that's why a lot of things happen with Luke the way that they do, and the Emperor knew this from the get. That's why he's egging on Luke the entire time, trying to get Luke to do what he wants. The angle that the Emperor fucked up on, that Palpatine just didn't see coming, was that Vader was going to be... there was still going to be good in him. Palpatine thought he broke Vader. He thought he broke Anakin to the point where Anakin would do whatever the Emperor said. And then the second that he saw Luke kind of go like, there's no way that I can win this fight, and I have to save my son, that's when that good of Anakin came out. But he was too late. So there's a lot of angles to that I think a lot of people don't read into, because they're just like, yeah, Luke, good guy. Emperor, bad guy. Luke and Vader be bad guy.
Yeah.
The fucking extended universe didn't help for shit with that, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Alright. We should really start the show. So, here we go, guys. Mission start.
Hey, Anthony, do you like my new shirt?
Sure, man. It's cool. Could have been better.
What was that?
I said it could have been better.
You want to fight about it?
Yeah, I do. Let's go, chump. Hold on a second. We don't need to fight.
We don't?